Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time being here, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your energy with us. My aim with these energies is to help you remember who you are and help you remember where your source is. So if you are into that sort of thing, I hope you get something from this transmission. It is very much an energetic transmission more than words. But as I will be speaking certain words, these words will land with you in your energetic field. So you will likely feel these messages more than you will hear. Some of the things you may hear may not make sense to you, but something inside you says, yes. I don't know why, but I'm saying yes. So listen to that. I always say, what I transmit is not the truth. It is a level of truth because there's infinite levels of truth. But what I transmit is a higher level of truth than the 3D world is used to. So I always say, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to tell you what you think. I'm not here to tell you who you are. I'm here to remind you who you're not. You are not your traditions. You are not your body. You are not your emotions. You are not your experiences. All those are aspects of your experience, but you are none of that. You are pure consciousness having a human experience. So if you like this information, I hope you stay. Please click the like button or the subscribe button. It tells the algorithm that this video is worth watching, and pass it to a friend or two if you feel that they would benefit from it. For those of you who are returning, I have been energy today. Thank you so much for being here, for coming back, because with you, I wouldn't do this. And I absolutely freaking love what I do. I love channeling source. There are very few things that are on par with channeling source. It just feels like home. So thank you for being here. Today, I have a very, very, very strong energy with me, which I have not had before. And it's the energy of the Shiva. I don't work with Shiva. I don't work with Indian symbology gods. I mean, I believe in them. I believe I lived there at one point, but it's not an energy that I work with every day. But this energy stepped in very boldly and very loudly. It's like, wow, this feels really good. So I asked this question, why is this energy coming through right now? And it's because I myself am going through a massive recalibration and transformation. And therefore, what I will be channeling for you will be that frequency. So anything you hear coming out of my mouth is frequently aligned with the idea of recalibration and transformation in your own life. So you are likely in a space where you are shifting and transforming because the whole world is transforming. And likely at some point you're going, I don't understand any of this. You don't have to understand the process of awakening in order to move through it. If you're trying to understand the process of awakening, you're going to create massive resistance because a lot about awakening does not make sense. For example, how can you live in more than one dimension at once? To a human being, it's like, what the hell are you talking about? That's a 3D concept. Awakening allows you to move beyond your 3D concepts, which allows you to see things you haven't been able to see before. And because you haven't been able to see them before, you don't have boxes for it. So your human mind is going to try to put your experiences into boxes, but it will not be able to because it has no frame of reference. And that can be a little bit frightening, can I say, because it may make us feel like we are losing our mind. We are seeing things we haven't seen before, and you can't even explain it because there's no words to explain it. So there's a whole bunch of people walking around thinking they're going crazy, myself included, and I've been doing this work for many, many, many years. But it's not that we're crazy. We are just tapping into another level of expression. So this being, this energy, this consciousness of Shiva is here to help us recalibrate and transform. And if there's any advice that I would give to you, and I don't give advice, but if there was ever any advice that I would give to you, here's what I would say. Don't resist the process. Resist the need to understand everything, and release, let go, And here's a big one: surrender. That's scary as F-U-C-K. Yeah, surrendering is a scary process because surrendering tells you to let go of the familiar. And familiar feels safe. So to let go of the familiar, that's pretty scary. But here's the irony. Here's the irony. What you are letting go of is familiar, yes, but what you are moving into is even more familiar than you're familiar now. In other words, what you are releasing and letting go is your old, limiting, outdated structures, the ego, in order for you to experience more of you, more of who you really are, which is a consciousness, vibration, particle of source. Some call it God. So to your identity, that's very scary because without you giving your identity power, it doesn't exist. So when you stop relating to yourself in the old way, limiting way, you let go of part of you, but you don't know what the new one is yet. Well, let me tell you what the new identity is for you. If you let go of an old identity that's limiting you and you experience another identity, that other identity, fifth dimensional identity, is much more enhanced and expanded. What did that mean? Thank you. Tell them what that means. You literally experience more of you, more healing power, more abilities, more access to higher consciousness, your ability to manifest your rockets. Because the more you let go of limitations, the more you become the unlimited you that you are. Beyond your human awareness, you are unlimited. It is only that your human awareness makes you feel and believe that you are limited. So yes, you can't grow limbs because this is a very limited structure. 3D is a very limited structure. Nothing wrong with that. It's part of our experience. But as humanity, we're moving into something greater, into something, dare I say, peaceful. And I don't know about you. I don't watch a lot of news because it's just depressing. But there is a lot of unpeace, let's say, going out in the world. And a lot of drama and trauma and awful things going on. And here's the thing. We humans are doing it to ourselves. We humans are doing it to ourselves. Huh? Why would we hurt ourselves? How? What? What? Why? What? How does that make any sense? Humanity's hurting itself by believing it's less. I don't know. That's an actually interesting statement. The more you believe in your identity, the more you will be stuck in your 3D experience. And 3D experience is beautiful, but it can also suck. Part of a 3D experience is wars. In higher dimensions, there is no war because there is no need to punish or judge or something else. So if we hold on to our strictly 3D identity, we will not be able to experience more of our potential. So, all right. So the word that came, the phrase that came for me was, to know your power is to know your source. I had to pause, I had to go, let me feel that. And then it started to make sense. And that's because, let's talk about power. What is power? Power is not something that has to be controlled. Most people mistake power for control, dominance, or charisma. Okay? But true power, your power, comes from remembering. It doesn't come from your ancestry. It doesn't come from your personality. It doesn't come from a label. It's your source. In other words, power is not something we get. Power is something we are. Which means You don't have to do anything or be anyone or beg, for that matter, in order to have access to this power. All you have to do is realize and recognize the power within you already. Joanna, well, how do I do that? Thank you for asking. It's a great question. You look at your distortions. You look at the limitations you put on yourself or some others have put on you. Because any distortion that you identify with takes away a little bit of your power. Okay? And distortion is based in fear. In other words, the more we hold on and identify with our fear, the less empowered we will feel. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have fear. Fear is a very important part of human existence. And if a lion is chasing you, I want you to fear and run. But too much fear is like too much pepper on your steak, if you're into that sort of thing. Not very palatable, okay? I mean, you can eat it, but it's like, well, in other words, it doesn't feel good. Okay? So when we don't feel good, we are not in our power, because to be in our power feels bloody good. It doesn't mean you don't have challenges. It doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. But when you are in your power, you are a more empowered being, and therefore anything you experience in this life, you're able to meet in a way that doesn't scare you, doesn't terrify you. Okay? On the other hand, when you live too much in fear, well, fear is based in lack. You live in lack. And when you live in lack, you vibrate lack out. And the universe always meets you because it's all vibration. So the more we are in fear, the more we are aligning with experiencing that half fear, if I can say it that way. Not because we deserve it, but because that's how we're vibrating. On the other hand, when we let go of some fear, no, if we let go of some of our fear, we bring our power back. So the message isn't about getting rid of fear. The message is about to be in your power is to no longer have fear take control of you. Because when fear controls you, you're constantly in fear. If fear controls you, you are constantly under the control of fear. And fear doesn't vibrate very high in comparison to love and peace. It's on a different, it's the same trajectory, but it's on a different opposites, right? Fear is the opposite of love. And the higher we move in dimensions, the higher we embody unconditional love. Okay? Not because we're not unconditional love right now. We are. It's because of all the distortions based on fear that we are holding on to, that we are not embodying it. Because to embody your truth and unconditional love is extremely high frequency. When your body is filled with fear, your nervous system is constantly trying to protect itself. And when we begin to wake up and the soul comes closer to the body, let's say, let's use that analogy, because your soul is so vibrationally higher than fear, it is so different that when your nervous system starts to pick up that frequency, it begins to panic because it's not used to something so unfamiliar. It literally picks up frequencies it has not used to before, and it feels like it's being threatened. And when that happens, we panic even more. So what is the antidote to this? In order for us not to freak out when the soul starts to embody our bodies, we have to do some cleanup. And what the cleanup simply means, it's cleaning out the old wounds, energies, frequencies that are keeping us in a state of fear. Pardon me. All right. But anyway, let's go back to power. Also, to know your source is to stop leaking your power. When you forget where you come from, when you forget your source, you unconsciously give your power away to roles, relationships, to needing to be understood, to the mind's protection mechanisms. But the moment you remember source, that you are the source, is the moment you feel the stillness within you that does not need to prove anything or become anything. So your power returns, not as voltage, but as presence. To be in your power is to be in your own presence. And if we have too many fears going on, we are not present, because to be present means to be in your body. In order to be in our body, we have to feel safe being in our body. If we have too many fears that we are holding on to, we don't feel safe, so we don't live in the body. And I said this before in a different video. Awakening doesn't happen through remembering. Well, first of all, awakening is remembering. Awakening is not something you get, not something you learn. It's not something you ask for. Awakening is remembering. Awakening is remembering. That's it. And the remembering doesn't happen through the logic. It happens through the body. So if we are to remember more, which is where our power is, we need to be in our bodies, which means we need to feel safe being in our bodies. And if we're not safe, like I said before, we won't be in our bodies. So we need to find a way how to release the fear. One of the hardest, but really effective ways of releasing your fear is to face your fear. It's not easy. Facing your fear is hard, because fear is something we generally run away from. But here's the idea. What if the fear is not even real? What if it's just a concept? What if the fear doesn't exist? Now, my mind goes, what? And I'm trying not to process it through my human mind, because that's not going to serve me right now. But what if what we fear actually doesn't exist? What if it's a product of our imagination? In other words, what if your fear is something that you imagine, something that's in your mind? Well, fear lives in the mind and in your body. It doesn't live outside of you. So to deal with your fear, we don't do it from outside. We do it from inside. In other words, what example could I give here? If you fear, for example, of being attacked by a dog, that fear is very real. And that fear comes from somewhere. In other words, in order for you to have that fear, you had to have had that experience in this lifetime or other lifetimes. Okay? But that experience has already happened. Yes, it made you feel fearful, but already happened. Okay? It doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But you, holding on to the fear, are going to expect it. So if you are afraid of being bitten by a dog, you've had the experience of being bitten by a dog, or had some kind of an experience that made you go, okay, this whole dog thing biting, not a good idea. Okay? You've had that experience, and holding on to that fear, you are unconsciously expecting it. So every time you come around the dog, you expect to be bitten. And that expectation is interesting, because what you expect is what you get. more often than not. It's not the conscious expectation, it's the unconscious expectation. If you, for example, always expect to get hurt, you're going to live up to your expectations because that's how it works. So in this example, if you don't want to fear being bitten by a dog, you kind of like dogs, but you're afraid of them, then you have to face your fear. You have to face it. You have to look square in the eye and you have to say, I see you. I feel you. You are safe. Having fear doesn't mean something is going to happen. Having fear simply means that fear is protecting you from that potentially happening again. So when we release old wounds, when we release a lot of our fears, we release the need to hold on to it. And when we no longer hold on to our fear, well, we are not ruled and controlled by fear. So shadow work is in order. I, Joanna, absolutely love shadow work. I'm moving beyond it now, but shadow work has been a huge component of my path for the last 20, 25 years. So I'm very familiar with how shadow works, not only how it works, but transmuting shadow through the process of moving it through the body. Okay. But anyway, shadow work is being signified here. So if you haven't done any shadow work, this is a good time and opportunity for you to do some shadow. How do you know if you need some shadow work? Everyone needs some shadow work. Okay. Shadow is not bad. Shadow is not good. Shadow simply is. It's a mechanism. Okay. But facing your shadows can feel very confronting because shadows are part of your identity. Okay. And shadows are not bad. I said this in a different video. Shadows gives us depth and dimension. So never look at a shadow as something bad. It's not. It's actually beautiful. It's powerful. It's trying to protect you. Your shadow is always trying to protect you. So if you look at your shadow that way, rather than an enemy, it'll be a lot easier for you to face your shadows. Facing a shadow doesn't mean something is going to happen. Facing your shadow is facing the fear that doesn't want that to happen again, if that makes sense. Your power is not something you find, it's something you remember. You don't need to generate power. You only need to clear what's blocking your connection to source, your shadows, your distortions. And when you do, the energy that flows through you is not yours to manage. It is you in motion as in truth. So knowing your power is knowing your source, is knowing yourself. And once you know that, you don't chase impact. You become the impact just by standing in your being. So everything we're talking about today is helping you, hopefully, reveal your power by looking at the truths that you are holding on to and asking yourself, is this truth that I'm holding on to limiting me or empowering me? If you are holding on to a truth that says you are good enough, you have to ask yourself this question. How does this truth serve me? Does it allow me to be less or does it allow me to be more? If it allows you to be more, keep it. If it makes you less, let go. You don't need it anymore. You already know what it's like to feel less than. You already know what it's like to feel unworthy. You already got it. If that was what your soul wanted to experience, you got it. That's it. Let it go. You don't need it anymore. You don't need to repeat it. But it's part of your identity, which means in order to let it go, you have to let go of that part of your identity. It's called ego death. And that is called recalibration and transformation, which is why Shiva is with us here today. They said, make it easy for yourself. Don't resist the process. And I'm like, what process is that? Facing your shadows, of course. Don't think of your shadows as a bad thing. It's not. It's beautiful. Is it comfortable? No. But it's powerful. And it's liberating as hell. So never be afraid of facing your shadows. Yes, ask for support. This is what I do all day long. Ask for support. Ask for someone to help you face your shadows. Don't wait for something bad happening in the world or to you in your life in order to face your shadows. You don't have to have anything bad happening in order to face your shadows. You don't have to. I mean, it's better that way. It's better that way. Why wait for something to happen? No, face it now. So with this recalibration energy, everyone had the opportunity to recalibrate and transform. Some people will choose to go with the flow. Some will resist it. Here's what I will tell you as Joanna, because I'm going through a massive shift right now myself. Resisting not only does it not work, but it feels awful. Oh my gosh. Oh, it feels awful. So I'm doing my best not to resist. Now, some of you may say, well, Joanna, you've been doing this for 20 years. You've been channeling for 20 years. What's your problem? I am the problem. My identity is the problem. I am too shedding layers of my old identity. And there are always layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. So I'm going through my own transformative process. And even though I know how it works, I get it. I've been there before more than once. I've helped most of my clients with it. It's still happening on a cellular level. To go through this transformation and through this recalibration process, don't resist, because it's going to get harder. Go with the flow, lean into it, surrender. Not give up, surrender. That is the best advice that I could ever give you. And just see what happens. Because on the other side of this recalibration is something we cannot humanly comprehend because we don't have a human frame of reference for it. We don't have a frame of reference for it. Where we are going, and when I say going, it's not a location. It is a state of beingness. Where we are going is we are moving into higher octave, higher frequency. And the reason why it feels scary is because the higher frequency is affecting the nervous system. And like I said before, nervous system registers this higher frequency as danger. So we feel freaked out, we feel discombobulated, we feel what's happening, but it's all part of the process of awakening. And if you're watching this video, if you've watched any of my videos, you are on this path. Otherwise, you wouldn't be. It's just that simple. The energy would make no sense to you, even though it's not necessarily supposed to make sense to you. It's vibrational. But if you are not in a process of awakening, you wouldn't be here. So you are, like I am, in your own process of recalibration. So I pulled some cards, and I have 4 specific questions that I want to ask and see what messages we get. So the first question is, what wants to be released right now? Energy transmission. So if you're watching this, you are in a cycle of completion. You are an energetic being, and you are stepping more into yourself and to your ego. That is very scary, because your true self is so much more powerful than your ego. Your ego stands no freaking chance. So when you step more into your true self, you step more into your power. When you are more in your own power, you have no need to control everything. And when ego hears that, it gets scared, because ego equals control. Control isn't good nor bad. It simply is. Too much control, too much rigidity, it messes with the potential. Okay? So you are at an end of a cycle. You are moving through a very potent and very powerful energy that in many cases does feel like death. And I recorded a video on that just last week, so there's one below. Okay? It does feel like death. It's not a physical death. It is identity death. You are being restructured and revealed in this process. They're giving me the metaphor of the caterpillar is in a cocoon, and then it has to dissolve itself completely, like talk about transformation, and then eventually it emerges as a butterfly. You know, that's a process of death of one way of being, and a process of something new in terms of a new way of being. Okay. But it's not that you are becoming something new. You are beginning to remember. And that memory doesn't come from your head. It comes from your body. It comes from your DNA. It comes from your cells, because every cell and every DNA is encoded with source's light, lives within you. So you are beginning to remember that. And to the cognitive mind, your logical mind may not understand it. And that's fine. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not happening. Some part of you knows this. What I'm saying is some part of you knows this because that part of you recognizes it, this process and what I'm saying. So this is likely going to make you feel a little bit more settled in terms of your own process right now, okay? You are exactly where you, quote unquote, need to be based on your choices and your soul's choices, okay? You're not wandering around, not knowing what's going on. I mean, you might feel that way, but you know exactly what it's doing. So exactly where you're, quote unquote, are supposed to be, okay? So thank you. What wants to be released? Limitations, holding on to outdated ideas, and looking at how we self-preserve. Self-preservation, what does that mean? We preserve our identity in various different ways. For example, if part of your identity is that you feel small, and I don't mean like statue-wise, but you feel like insignificant, if you hold on to that identity, that's you know, and because it's you've identified with it for so long, to let go of that part is hard, because outside of that identity, who are you? But here's the thing. This is precisely what you want to ask yourself right now. As I'm going through this transformation process, as I'm going through this recalibration, who am I becoming more of? Who are you becoming more of? Your true self? Your pure essence? Your unconditional love? The source that lives within you? You're letting go of any limitations that prevent you from seeing all of that and experiencing all of that. What wants to come through? What wants to be revealed? This is really interesting. So I'm just going to show you this card. What wants to be revealed is your light. Each and every one of us carries light within us. Okay? To the degree of how much gunk we are holding on to, distortions, will be to the degree how brightly we shine. You, I hate to tell you, are here to shine. Okay? You are here to be the lighthouse. You are here to illuminate, not by force, but by your mere presence. Well, Joanna, how do I illuminate by my presence? Well, let's first start asking the question, what does it mean to illuminate? To transmit. To illuminate is to reveal. Thank you. To illuminate is to reveal. So your job is to help reveal what is true and what isn't. And there are many, many, many truths out there. Okay. But you're here to help illuminate other people's path, not by force, but by your own illumination. Because your energy is very bright. And it shines things in other people they cannot see for themselves. So you don't give them permission to be powerful because they don't need permission. But when they see you in your own light, it asks them to look inside for their light. It's not a conscious thing most of the time. It's an unconscious thing. How you do it, I don't know. I have my own way of doing it. But it's not about doing it. It's about being. It's about being. Okay? So what wants to come through right now? What wants to be revealed? More of your light. That's what the recalibration is. That's what the transformation is. You are here to reveal more of your light. And I just heard, well, you are the light worker, aren't you? Okay. The one caution I will have, if you consider yourself to be a light worker, is please do yourself a favor. Try not to save people. Okay. People don't need saving, aside from if somebody's in an accident, you want to save them. Absolutely. I totally get that. And that's not what we're talking about. But generally, people don't need to be saved. Because the moment you save someone from a situation, but they don't know how they got themselves into it, they're going to do it again. Don't save people. Instead, show them how they can empower themselves so that they don't need to feel like they need to be saved anymore. Because when someone feels like they need to be saved, then what they're saying is, I have no power. That is not true. You cannot not have power. You are power. It's not something you have, it's something you are. So what wants to come through is that. I just got full on chills on that. What wants to be looked at right now? What's your dirty laundry? We have the Four of Swords, I believe, in tarot, and it's called Just Breathe, but it's in reverse. So the way I perceive this is, where do you hold your breath? For example, there used to be a time, for a very, very, very long time, where I would, when I would receive a bill in the mail, the instant I saw the billing company, my went instantaneous. We all have reactions like that to so many things, but most of those reactions are unconscious. Now, because I'm a feeler, I've always have been a master feeler, which makes sense why. So I could do this work. Because I was conscious of my feelings, I recognized it, and I didn't do anything with it for the longest time, but I always hated getting bills. Most people do. Once I worked through it, eventually, it took me a long time, I realized, well, I had massive issues around money and abundance. So the bill was hitting my lack of finances and my lack consciousness around money. And that's where I held my breath. So what I'd like you to notice over the next little while is, throughout your day, throughout your life, notice in situations where you hold your breath, because that's your body going through. Your body is, what's it doing? It's resisting, number one, but it's also, what's the word? I forget the word. It's not close enough. What is the word? Well, let's just go with resistance. When you feel that, there's a resistance. Okay, your body is going to almost like a protection mode. Whenever the body goes into a protection mode, you can always bet that there's some sort of a fear. So whenever you notice in your daily life, when you go, it's an opportunity to go, isn't that interesting? What is that? So throughout your day, notice where you hold your breath, and then just ask yourself, what is that? What am I reacting to? Because what we want right now is we want to have these reactions more visible. Why? Because when they're more visible, then we can get to the source of the reaction. Okay? If you are talking to somebody and all of a sudden you feel intimidated by them and your body constricts, thank you, that's the word, your body constricts, then there's something going on. Your body's constricting because it's feeling uncomfortable. Perhaps the discomfort is rooting in the fear that you are not good enough. So someone who presents themselves a certain way will poke you at that. And I always say, when you're being poked as a trigger, most people react. Very few people go, okay, what's this trigger telling you? What's going on? And taking accountability for what's going on here, most people just react, right? But when we react from unconscious. And when we are living from unconscious, we create our life unconsciously. And when we create life unconsciously, we think we don't have power because we're not conscious of our power. So this is asking you to notice where you give your power away, to what fear, to what beliefs, by noticing how your body reacts in the way it constricts throughout your day. It's a very powerful technique for becoming more conscious, and eventually consciousness, higher consciousness is what liberates you. So the more conscious you are, the more liberated you feel. Okay, so this is what it's asking us. What to expect, what's coming next. Interesting. It's called determination, but right away I heard fear of failure. All right. So the question was, what's next? Does that mean that we are going to fail? I just heard it. There is no such thing. Your idea of failure is based in your understanding, in your narrative, in your beliefs. As far as the highest consciousness goes, there's no failure, there's just opportunities. Okay? So what I want to say here is this. Doesn't mean that you're going to fail. It's more about, do you let your past failures hold you back and limit you? We've all failed. We've all done things we're not proud of. We've all done things we would rather do differently. We've all done it. That's just part of life. The question is, how much of that experience are you still holding on to? Okay. If you had an experience where you quote unquote failed, and you said to yourself, I guess I'm an unlucky person. I failed because I'm not lucky. I'm unlucky. And you begin to identify yourself as an unlucky person. Well, then, if you're unlucky, you'll be expected to fail. Right? If you're not lucky, you'll be expecting to fail. So it's looking at what are our hidden expectations of ourselves. What do we expect for ourselves based on our old conditioning? Number one. Number two, if I fail, what's going to happen? So there's a fear of failure here, okay? If I fail, what's going to happen? What does failure mean to you? If I fail, I mean, there's so many gazillion different ways that we can quote unquote fail. And failure essentially is the experience is not meeting our desires or our needs. So we believe we fail because something wasn't met. Okay. So when something isn't met, we still have a need for it. And because we have a need for it, we're going to go and try to get it. But our needs are mostly satisfied from within, more so than without. I mean, of course, yes, we need to eat in order to feel, that we are not hungry. I get that. But if we are holding a fearful projection of ourselves that says, I am not worthy, and nobody wants to feel that, we are going to be looking for our worth outside of ourselves. Bad idea. Bad idea. That's because we are outsourcing our worth and our power from the outside. No one can give you your worth other than you. You decide. Don't let someone else decide what you're worth. No, of course, if you're like, financially speaking, if you're worth like $10 million and another person is worth 10 billion, I mean, yes, we could look at it that way. But what I'm talking about is just the intrinsic value that we all carry within us. So don't let anyone ever define your value. You may not have certain skills. You may not have certain whatever, but that doesn't mean that you are not valuable. If you were not valuable, you wouldn't exist. Simple as that. If there was no value to you, the source, the universe, would have never created you. So don't create your worth based on how other people see you. By all means, give them your ear. If they have something valuable to share with you, yes, but always acknowledge your own value first, because you have it. And the message I'm getting, I'm not quite sure how it works, but the message I'm getting is the more value you carry within you, the more you identify with your value, the less afraid you're going to be of failure. That's what they're telling me. I'm not sure how that worked in my 3D brain, but I'll take it. I accept it. It makes sense to me on some level. To say it again, the more value you hold within you, the more you are identifying with your power, the less you will be afraid of failure. Because the more you're in your power, the more you don't need anything. I mean, yes, you need food. Yes, you need shelter. Yes, you need clothing. But the more you're in your power, the less you need people approving of you. The less you need people, the less you feel need to please other people. When you're in your power, it feels really good. Doesn't mean you don't have challenges. It just feels good. So the message is very clear. Don't let others assign value to you. If there's anyone that ever assigns value to you, it's you. Source already assigned value to you. You're invaluable. Without you, the universe wouldn't be the same. You're a very important part of this magnificently massive universes within universes. So there's a message around value, even though it's kind of interesting. And yes, okay, that's a root chakra, survivability, okay? Finances. There's some fear around finances here, fear of failure around finances for somebody. So because the question was what to expect, I'm not saying that your finances are going to go to the drain, but what I am sensing is that you have some fear around finances. If you do, this is an opportunity for you to look at your fears around finances, your own programming around finances, because the irony is the more you are in your power, the less you are in your fear, and the more you are in your power, the more powerfully you attract to yourself, including money, because you have less resistance to it. Okay. So whoever this is for may not be for everybody, but some of you have massive issues around finances and money. Okay. So you might be losing your job. Some changes might be happening around your financial house. There's some concern here, but it's coming up in order for that fear to be faced, not because it's going to happen, but for that to be faced. Okay. I hope this is making sense for somebody because it feels very specific. I also see cars around it. So I don't know if somebody is connected to cars or business of cars. I don't know what it is. It's very specific. So that's what I have for you. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know how you feel about this in your comments, how this frequency has resonated with you. And I look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Bye-bye.